Hello everybody and welcome back to our weekly Welcome to Demon School video. And honestly, this video wasn't supposed to come out today. This is very last minute. This was supposed to come out tomorrow, and today I was supposed to be talking about Pokemon. I did enjoy the first episode, but with the whole hashtag Kappa situation, the Kappa proposed rule, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It's a whole mess. I decided to not talk about Pokemon just so that I'm not running the risk of upsetting anybody, and I'm just gonna keep talking about the shows that I want to talk about because these videos are meant for a more mature audience, so I'm gonna keep just focusing on slightly more mature shows. Mature shows like Welcome to Demon School, totally mature. But anyway, these videos, if it wasn't already abundantly obvious, are meant for anybody like 16 plus. Like, if you're watching this, I'm safely assuming that you're a teenager or an adult because that's who the target demographic for this channel is. In fact, when I look at the analytics, it's mostly 18 plus who are watching this channel. That's who the target demographic is. I don't want to upset anybody and working on Kappa, so no, this video isn't child friendly. That's why I just avoided Pokemon, because they'll see Pokemon and just think kids right away. I don't want any part of that. Not talking about Pokemon today. Anyway, with that fun topic out of the way, we're here to talk about episode 7 of Welcome to Demon School, First Love Memories. And before we begin, I do want to give a big shout out to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter, at ALXW23 and at TenkoYai. Thank you so much for sharing last week's video, you two, and if you would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Welcome to Demon School video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Now then, with that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the actual episode. I know, it's about time. Sorry about that. But I gotta say, this episode was a pleasant surprise. I watched it with a warm cup of tea this morning, and it was just sort of nice to see the relationship build between Iruma and Ameri. And I actually really like Ameri. I'm sure I'm pronouncing her name incorrectly, as seems to be a trend on this channel. But Ameri is a really fun character. Like I said previously, I love her design. I think it's fantastic. And I think her design really does speak volumes to her as a character as she tries to wrestle with what Iruma is. And she does come to the conclusion that he is very much human, which I feel is pretty obvious judging by their first encounter that he would be human. So I appreciate that they didn't make her dumb and think like, oh, maybe he's not human. Maybe he just knows how to read the human texts or the sacred texts. Like, no, she's aware that he's human, but she's pretending like she doesn't know so that she can get him to read her all of the manga she's been reading, which is the title of this week's episode, First Love Memories. And I thought that dynamic, it's exactly what I had expected going off last week's episode, but it's also exactly what I wanted from these two. I think their dynamic is a ton of fun. I think they're different in not only personality, but like just even in appearance, like, and height. Like Ameri is clearly like way taller than Iruma. Iruma is shaded with a lot of blue and a lot of cold colors. Ameri is with a lot of orange and bright, warm colors. And they contrast each other really nicely. So seeing them together, not only do you feel aesthetically that they actually make a good team. I'm not gonna say pair because I don't quite ship it, but not only do they make a good team, but they do actually complement each other really well, both in terms of appearance and personality. They really do bounce off each other really well in this week's episode. Seeing their like misunderstanding of each other is just kind of sweet. Like, she really did think for a little bit that he was trying to trick her and that he was trying to use his human magic to woo her and seduce her. And that's not exactly what goes down, obviously. Iruma's just trying to figure out why this lady is trying to squish his face, like when they meet, she's literally, it looks like she's gonna crush his head for a second. And he's just trying to understand why she's so upset until he sees the manga hit the floor. And when he picks it up, he actually says that he worked as an assistant on the manga, which I thought was, at first I was like, that's really specific and weird. I don't know why he would do that. But we actually know from episode 1 that Iruma has done a lot of odd jobs over the years, so it's not unlikely that he would have likely worked on the series at some point. I just thought that was a really nice touch, that he was actually familiar with the manga and knew what happened to the characters, and so when he picks it up, he says like, oh, this is the blah, blah, blah. So he actually kind of diffuses the situation without realizing what the situation was. He had a hint that maybe Ameri was becoming aware that he was human, but it was never to a point where he was like on high alert. He just thought maybe she was aware of it. And I don't know, I just thought it made the whole situation really funny and just really charming and sweet. And I will say though, she does drag that dude like, you're coming with me. And like in that moment, if I were Iruma, I'd be like, they know. I would immediately be like, they know, I'm dead, this is it. And he does have that thought of like, she knows, I'm super screwed. But when he gets thrown into the student council room, or maybe just her specific office, I think it's just her specific office, but he gets thrown in there, and there's like a tea set ready, and there's like not only is there tea, there's like an assortment of snacks and everything. And so he's like, what's happening? And she like puts the manga in front of him and then sits down and just looks at him, gives him the coldest stare ever, and then immediately becomes a tsundere and just kind of gets all bashful and asks him to read the manga. And this is why I like their dynamic. I don't necessarily ship it quite yet. I actually, and this is going to be bizarre for some people, but I actually ship Iruma and the blonde girl, who Iruma is not even like aware of her existence, but I actually think those two are like really sweet, just because this girl's been crushing on Iruma from so far away that he doesn't even know she exists. And for some reason, that does it for me more than this actual dynamic. I don't know why. But I see Ameri and Iruma more as like a friendship and an alliance of sorts. They're like, Ameri's basically using Iruma to get something out of that relationship. So they are sort of an alliance of convenience, mainly for Ameri than Iruma, because Iruma's just kind of happy to not be, dead. But she's using him specifically to get him to read the manga. But I do like that already you're starting to see this relationship form between them, this friendship, this bond, or this romance, whatever you want it to be. I just personally don't ship it, but if you ship it, all the power to you, just not for me. But it's sweet. I really thought that their little, like, him reading to her and explaining like what, because it's not so much just reading, right? Because it'd be one thing if it was just him reading the sacred texts to her, but it's also that he has to explain little things, like he has to explain what a date is, and that actually comes up again later on in the episode, and that was just super charming. The more I think about it, the more I'm pretty certain that this is gonna end up being like the quote-unquote end game ship, because like they even have a scene where when he's explaining what a date is, she later refers to meeting up with Iruma as a date and gets flustered about it when the other demons ask like, what is a date? Like she's like, nothing, man, don't worry about it, student council business, don't even, specifically for president, it's not even important, man, just don't worry. And she just leaves and runs out. And so I was like, okay, she's definitely crushing on this dude. And honestly, the way he reacted to her punching her number into his phone, because that does happen, she straight up puts her number in his phone, I do think Iruma's starting to catch feels, and I mean, I don't blame him. Ameri is obviously really fun to be around, and she's also super pretty, so I don't doubt that he would fall for Ameri at all. But I just don't ship it, because I think the other one is, I think the blonde girl and Iruma would be more adorable if it worked out. But I do understand why this relationship is starting to kind of fall into place, and I can see people really getting down with the ship, because getting down with the shipness, oh, that's a t-shirt waiting to happen right there. But what I loved about their relationship so much, and this is sort of jumping ahead in the episode a bit, but it actually does make the other better, because Ameri had such a warped view on what humans were and what the sacred texts were, just friggin' manga. But she didn't know what any of that really meant, so to her it was a bizarre concept, right? So she didn't understand what humans really were. She only knew what they maybe were like based off the pictures in First Love Memories. And even then, she's not super clear what's happening. Like, she thinks hand-holding is like a charm spell or something like that. So having Iruma actually explain to her what's happening, it actually does it paints her in a better light. And he even approaches her and asks, like, what are your dreams? Like, what are your goals? And she's able to say, like, she's really proud of being a demon, and she wants to make the demon school that they're attending better. And she wants to use it to further educate demons and make them sharper and stronger and better and better and better, because she believes in the demon way of life, and she believes in her fellow demons. And she just, like, you could tell that she just really... She's a humanitarian, but for demons, you know? And you actually see that, like, Iruma asking her kind of sparked this drive in her. Not like that she wasn't driven before, but she enjoyed talking about her aspirations with somebody else. And what I really appreciated is this whole episode, you're thinking that it's very one-sided, that Iruma makes Ameri feel better, and that Iruma makes, it's all payoff for Ameri's character. But twice in this episode, we get a big moment for Iruma, and especially towards the end of the episode with him and Ameri talking about the manga, because after he asks her for what her dreams were, she asks him, and he responds with, I just want to keep hanging out with everybody and having fun. And she kind of nails him to the wall for that, because she goes, that's not a dream, that's an ideal. That's like what you're doing now. You just want to keep doing what you're doing now. That's not a dream. I asked you what your goals were, what your dream was. And he genuinely has a hard time answering, because he doesn't really know. As we saw earlier in the episode, the butler character, whose name I forget, and I still want this character to get more screen time, because I really think that they could be really interesting. We just haven't seen enough from them. But the butler character for Iruma asks, like, do you want to go home? Like, do you want to go back to the human world? And to me, I thought he was going to respond with, like, the Harry Potter, like, I'm not going home. Not really. But Iruma does say, like, yeah, of course I want to go back. And he kind of trails off, and he remembers that his parents were the one who sold him to his grandfather, the demon, in the first place. So they're not exactly great people. And when he was in the human world, all he did was work. He had no real friends, didn't really interact much with his family, who didn't really seem to care much for him. They only cared what he could do for them. And he was, like, essentially homeless. Like, he was just trying to get by as best he could, worked to the bone. Like, he had a really awful life back in the human world. So honestly, the demon world has been nothing but an upgrade for him. So it's that moment where he's coming to terms with the fact that this is the new normal for him. He is, for all intents and purposes, a demon as far as the rest of the world, or as far as the rest of the demon world sees him. He has to keep playing demon. And it's brought up that if he excels and gets becomes a high-ranking demon, he could go back to the human world if he chose. So when Ameri asks him what his goals were, I was expecting him to answer that he wants to go to the human world, or he wants to be a high-ranking official or something like that, but he doesn't answer. And I think that's because he's slowly coming to grips with the fact that he doesn't really have a goal in mind just yet. I'm very curious to see next week if he does actually formulate a game plan, formulate a dream and a goal, like something to achieve after talking with Ameri, because I can absolutely see him maybe, like, deciding, like, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna be Sabro's rival, and I'm gonna try to be the Demon King. Although I can also see him just saying that I just want to keep living, I just want to survive, and then accidentally become the Demon King. And I can actually see it being the latter, since the series is a comedy. It's meant to be like a sort of slapsticky, high school sort of goofy comedy. So I absolutely can see him just saying that his goal is to graduate and then focus on what he wants to do after that. But I like that Ameri actually gets him to think, and it makes me wonder what the greater plot will be, because the show's not really focused on plot and like a deep story. It's mainly just focused on comedy and slapstick, and I think it really excels at that. The colors in the series pop so well, like they're so vibrant and fun that every time you see them go goofy, it genuinely makes you laugh, because the colors are such like eye candy. Like they're so vibrant and fun that they just match the humorous vibe the show has going for it. And I really, really love that. So I don't really want it to get, like I had said previously in another video, that I would love to see the show go dark and get like a deep lore and deep plot. And I still want the show to have an end goal in mind, but I don't mind if like the rest of the show is just sort of meandering and goofy and funny, because honestly, it's what I come to Welcome to Demon School for. And if I'm totally honest, and I'm gonna get a little bit personal here, I really did have a scare last night. I almost had a panic attack. I was really freaking out over this whole Kappa thing, and it scared me to death. And watching Welcome to Demon School kind of brought me back down, because literally even when I woke up, I was still freaking out about it. I went to bed feeling a little bit better because I thought like maybe it won't be as bad. And when I woke up, my anxiety kicked back in. I'm a really anxious dude. I'm always thinking about like the worst possible situation. So I was freaking out, and I just wanted something normal and just something to make me laugh and distract me. And Welcome to Demon School does that every single week. So I almost would rather it just continue to do what it's doing, because while it may not be the funniest show I've ever seen, while it may not be the best show of the season, while it may not be comedy of the year, it's still just a good, fun time every week. And especially this week, I really needed it, so I'm really glad that it just decided to have fun, still have threads of a story, but mainly just have fun, be goofy, be funny, have slapstick, be colorful. That's all it really needs to do for me, and that's what it did here. Oh, and Az and Clara being incognito is hilarious. I loved it to pieces. I think their dynamic is fun. Their misunderstanding of Iruma and Ameri's misunderstanding is also really fun. But yeah, like I said, it's just a fun episode. Just if you're feeling stressed today, like I say at the end of all my videos, if you're feeling stressed out today, not only should you have a warm cup of tea, but watch Welcome to Demon School. It will instantly put you in a way better mood. With that said, everybody, I'm going to give this week's episode a solid rank of B. It is a good time. This show consistently is just fun to watch. And on that note, everybody, that's going to wrap up today's video. But before we take off, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Genkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, Verdon, and Westbourne Eastbred. A huge thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. Thanks once again for checking out today's video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.